Hoyo. In this video, again on Linux. Today I will show you how to install a couple of applications I use. At first I didn't think much of such a video. After all, it should be obvious how to install a given program, but it's not easy as on Windows, where usually the user does it so that they go to website of the producent of a given program, let's say OBS, and download the installer. That was actually recommended on the Linux video, on the Polish version, so I decided to do it as well. Generally, for this video I wanted to choose applications from various sources I use, but I realized already, or pretty fast, that most, if not all, applications are in App Store. But fortunately something was found to show how to install something outside the standard App Store as well. But before we get to that, I'm going to install the system, because there is no way I'm going to do it on my main drive. Although I'm running a bit of risk that there might be compatibility errors. In any case, if there's a problem during the installation, you'll probably see a clip I'll prepare later of how it should work. We'll install Ubuntu 24.04 on a separate disk I had on my hand. And what distro, it doesn't really matter as long as it has an installer. It can be, let's say, Endeavor, it can be Fedora, etc. Going to the Ubuntu or any distro website, we download the ISO file, and then using a burning program like Rufus, we upload the file to the flash drive. Now I'm going to make a shortcut because I simply don't have a way to show the reboot of the machine and the initial boot. But I can say that during the reboot we simply click the button responsible for BIOS or UEFI, and from the boot options we select our flash drive, after which a menu will appear from which we select the first option. Alright, being already in the installer, we have a very simple setup. We can choose the language, we can choose additional aids, the keyboard layout, whether we want to use the internet, the installation method. The easiest one is to take the interactive, because for the latter you need an autoinstall.yaml file. Then we have what programs we want. The default is as it is written here, the essentials, and the extended one adds us more programs like Office Suite. I chose the second option, and in the next tab I select both software to install. There we get software for NVIDIA cards, Wi-Fi or format supports. In the disk configuration I have three options to choose from: either install next to Windows Boot Manager, and in my case Ubuntu 24.04, or erase the whole disk, or manually partition it. In my case I chose the third option, but usually it is best to install next to Boot Manager, because it allocates the free space I left for it then, which is about 460 gigabytes. Then we can create our own account, set the time zone, and we can install the system. Now it's just a matter of waiting, so it's worth doing something useful. And after the installation we can restart the computer and follow the instructions on the screen. If after rebooting it throws you into Windows, check UEFI and boot order. If Ubuntu is not on the first option, then set it. So after the installation we will do one more optional step. Mainly we will install Flatpak here, because as you will see the Ubuntu App Store is quite outdated. Admittedly, I could install the distribution with them right away, but well, it's also worth showing. It's worth mentioning that now I will be using the Snap Store version of OBS for a while. It is unofficial and it has a few bonuses, such as application audio output capture, which is very useful for me for the reason that I can separate sound from games or other programs, and I can, for example, listen to something in the background, and the sound from the game on the recording is, well, sound from the game. In addition to a couple of plugins, for example, there are a couple of shortcomings like spitting out errors when I try to start recording using AV1, and for example I had to use H.264 here. Now you see the installation of Flatpak. For almost every distro I think there's installation method here, or almost every major distro. Go to the website and paste a couple of commands with which to install Flatpak, add the plugin to the software application, then add the Flatpak repository, FlatHub, and reboot the PC. Optionally, it is also worth uninstalling snaps at this point, but I won't do that because it wasn't necessary at, well, this point. After the reboot, we click the Windows key and we can type the name of the software application. This is how it looks like, a very clear application with categories, our installed applications, and applications to update. This system replaces us installing most things from the terminal and also from the internet. As I mentioned earlier, usually installing applications on Windows consisted of downloading an exe file, but here it is worth installing things from terminal or from such a... And it is worth remembering that some applications are not provided by official manufacturers and are simply a package from a completely different maintainer. So, we'll install OBS first. I will uninstall the previous version and install the Flatpak version. As you can see, we have a couple of versions to choose from. Most of them are simply from the Snapster, and our one is from Flatpak. Installation can be slow due to server or dependencies, so it's worth giving it a few minutes to install. After the installation and configuration, the program works. I can use AV1 already, as you can see, while we lose a couple of plugins like this application audio capture. This one actually can be installed easily by looking up for the Linux version of the plugin and following the instructions where we should drop the folder, and we have already this plugin installed. Using the Software Center, we will install a few selected programs that I use on Windows. These will be programs from all the categories we can see. I also thought about installing random programs, but first of all, as you can see, these programs in one category, there's a lot of them, and secondly, I don't know most of them, so I cannot say anything about them. For example, in the category of creation, we can find programs such as Audacity for audio, Blender for graphics, for 3D graphics, and GIMP. For the purpose of this material, I installed GIMP, and it's a matter of choosing the appropriate repository and clicking install. Of course, as it happens with Flatpaks, we have to wait a bit, and after the installation we have a ready-made image editor. It's not the level of, say, professional programs, but for quick image editing it's still suitable. Although I prefer, as I mentioned, Affinity Photo, about which I hope to insert a clip of installation also. Now I will sidetrack a bit because here I wanted to also show you how to install Affinity Photo, but there were 3 revisions of the script and overall this whole video. The first version was, I hoped it was about being able to install Affinity Photo on my computer, but when I tried to search for the script that I was talking about, the script was nowhere to be found on the GitHub repository. So I wrote about it that the script was missing and I didn't know when it will be back. And the moment I was about to publish the video and eventually finish it, there was a bit of change, because a fork of original repository was created with the script, but and this is the one that you'll see right now, but unfortunately I couldn't install, well, I could install Affinity Photo, however I couldn't launch it. As you will see later on, I will be able to, you know, install the Affinity Photo and try to open it, but other than the loading screen, after that everything crashes. I'm not sure whatever is the reason for this. Maybe it's the distro issue, maybe it's my AMD issue again, or whatever the hell is happening. Alright, so right now you can see the installation of Affinity. Let me mention also that all the links to the GitHubs, to the website I use, will be in the description of the video. So as you can see, I did copy the script for Affinity Photo and used it in the terminal. After the dependencies were installed, the script begins to work, and it's quite a long wait. As you can see, the clip is a bit sped up, so it might take up to 8-9 minutes. At some point it will stop requesting you to place the Affinity Photo exe file into that Affinity Linux. This is a hidden folder, and all you need to do is in your home folder in File Explorer, you need to press Ctrl+H to show all the hidden folders. I think it also works for KDE, unless you need to open the menu to manually show the hidden files. I don't remember that, unfortunately. Okay, but once we get exe file for Affinity Photo from their site, we place it into Affinity Linux folder and then press enter. If there's any error, we can stop the program, but in my case I could go further with the script. As you can see, the installation goes really smoothly. The installation window appears and tells me that installation soon is finished, and there I have my Affinity Photo. Now I should be able to just, you know, again click the Windows key and type Affinity Photo and be able to open it. However, for me it didn't work as of recording. I might look into that a bit later, but for now I'm stuck still with using Affinity Photo on Windows. Either way, this should work on maybe a few specific distros, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true. Installation of other programs will be done in a similar style. We search for them, install and open. Steam, for example, may after installation dump an error message, but after accepting it will run without a problem. In order to be install games on Steam, we go into Settings tab, then enable this option and restart the client. And this is how we can install games available on Linux on Steam. Discord is also here, but as I mentioned in my Linux video, the screen share is missing in this version. In this case, we have the Vesktop app, that is Discord plus Vencord, where we have plugins, additional options, and also this screen share. There is no Office package on Linux, but there are some alternatives. During the full installation we installed the LibreOffice package. If someone does not like this program, there are many other alternatives. Will they replace the Office package? Maybe not, but for quick text editing they should be suitable. You have mentioned in the previous video WPS Office or OnlyOffice, which I had the pleasure of using and I could recommend that one. For coding there is also Visual Studio Code, although there is also version without telemetry, which is VS Codium. And well, as if I forgot, to make all video files work properly, we'll also install VLC, and that should be enough of the necessary files. As you can see, some of video formats such as AV1 won't open with no video application. For this we use VLC and open as with VLC, and then we can open both H.264 and AV1 using this application. Okay, now we'll move on to the next point on my list that I wanted to touch on, which is, for example, the installation of programs from outside the App Store, mainly from GitHub, and, well, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the programs I use that are on GitHub are really a few. In the Linux video I showed briefly how to install, for example, DaVinci Resolve. But here we'll do it with Scrcpy because it's definitely easier. We go to the Scrcpy GitHub page and look for the appropriate tab with the installation. As you can see, for Ubuntu and Debian the version of Scrcpy is already deprecated, so we will use the source and instructions as given here. In this case we install the required packages, then clone and install Scrcpy. After connecting the phone and launching the app, as you can see, it works and mirrors my screen on the phone. And finally, I will show you how to install launchers for games like Honkai Impact, Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact. For this we'll go to the GitHub of Anime Game Launcher, and the team itself has all the launchers for 4 main Hoyo games or a couple of other games. This project is quite underground because of the grey zone it is currently in, because it still breaks terms of service that is given about using third-party software. but Hoyo hasn't actually issued any major ban waves about it. If I remember correctly, the only one that happened, which was by accident, was during 1.1 update of Honkai Star Rail, because of some change in the structure of files, I think, or in the add digit. People who were using mods and people who were using this launcher project were banned for a week or a month. I don't remember which, at least I think, because if I remember correctly, these bans were still in the period where patch 1.1 would still occur. I cannot guarantee that something like this won't happen again, because of, well, it's still using third-party programs, etc. But if something like this would occur again, then I think me as well as some other people are getting the message that hey, Genshin Honkai on Linux isn't really viable. But for now I'm risking with my account. I'm showing you how to do this. If you don't want to risk your account getting banned or don't think there's enough credibility in that, then you're better off on Windows with Genshin or Honkai, or at least using your phone to, well, let's say, screen copy it or play on phone. We'll take the Genshin launcher, and using it as an example, I will show how to install it. It's quite simple because you need to go to the wiki, and from there we can install through Flatpak. Add the repository if necessary, then the launcher repository, the known platform, and finally we can install the launcher. Now after typing the name of the launcher, it will show up and we can go to the installation. It takes a long time, so you have to wait a bit. We also have before that the configuration of launcher components before downloading the resources. I recommend leaving everything on default settings myself. In the meantime, still checking all the launchers in the program center, we can see that the other launchers are also already there, such as Honkai Star Rail launcher. During the setup process, we have choice of default paths, game language, wine version, DXVK, and finally it will download. In case the wine version may run into the error, you will see when trying to install them in Star Rail launcher. I think I will add it later. Just continue, and from the settings after the download, select the earlier wine version and then install the newer one again. The download process may take a while, but after that we can restart the launcher and start downloading the game. Before I get to that, we will also take a look at the settings. In the components tab we have wine and the DXVK versions. In general, the latest version usually performs best, although from what I remember in some cases we had to do a revert to an older version due to crashes during specific cutscenes, like for example 2.1 cutscene in Honkai Star Rail. Being at this point with games as it's still installing, I will talk about what and how for non-Steam games. As I mentioned in the link video, if you don't know if a game is available from Steam, then the ProteinDB site will help you. For games outside the Steam, it's a harder case, especially since outside of Steam I only play games from EA, but that's only on Windows because of the anti-cheat and whatnot. So for games from Xbox app or Epic Game Store, it is worth looking at English Linux gaming subreddit, where the topic of the game in question probably was discussed, or I don't know, type game title plus Linux on Google. Usually for this type of case, usually for games like this, there is used one of these two launchers. It's either Heroic Games Launcher or Lutris. These are both game launchers that can launch games from GOG, from Epic Game Store, and probably a few others. If I remember, there's also Ubisoft Connect. And from what I remember, if I remember correctly, Overwatch 1 I still had a chance to play using the guide on Lutris. Overwatch 2 is already on Steam, so there's no reason to use Lutris for that. And also, like I mentioned in that previous video, not all applications can be found here. For example, there's no Office Suite from Microsoft or Adobe Suite, so no graphics editing. There's now also Autodesk stuff such as AutoCAD and 3ds Max, although for 3ds Max you have still Blender, so there's that. And I also poured out my regrets about how DaVinci Resolve is frustrating on Linux with AMD cards. Okay, but after downloading all the game files, I did two more things. Namely, I set the game mode in borderless, so it wouldn't minimize every time I did something else. For example, I alt-tabbed from the game. And later I set the HUD to see how the performance was. Although with that you already know how it performs already. Once I got into the game, I downloaded the files, and you could see the first entrance, the loading, etc. And yeah, we are in Genshin Impact on Linux. It performs pretty well. I don't have any bad things to say about it. And for the remaining 2-3 games on Hoyo, such as Honkai Star Rail, Honkai Impact, or Zenless Zone Zero, you should do the same thing as shown here. Alright, I think I've showed up everything on how to install games, how to install programs on Linux. I hope you liked it. I think I could do a few more things better, but that's just how I do things. Maybe I could come back to this specific topic in a few months' time or something, once something changes. But yeah, for now that's it. I hope you liked this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya!